Good evening, and welcome to Late Night Science, where curiosity slows the world down and wonder becomes the soft light that fills the room. The noise of the day is fading now. Somewhere beyond your window, a few distant photons have already left a star, crossing the dark with quiet purpose. Tonight we follow them, not with rockets or engines, but with imagination. Settle in, breathe. Let your mind drift toward the oldest race in the universe. Every time we chase light, time slows, space twists, and truth begins to vanish. What secret is light hiding from everything that follows it? You might pause for a moment and let that question rest on your thoughts like moonlight on water. If you'd like, share where you're listening from, perhaps a city window glowing after midnight, or a quiet village where the stars still show their age. And if this journey feels like a kind of calm you'd like to return to, you can gently tap subscribe or like. It tells the algorithms that serenity matters too. Now, we begin. For as long as humans have looked at the sky, there has been this instinct to chase the moving glow. Long before equations, before telescopes and theories, we watched the sun rise and felt something awaken inside us, the wish to catch it, to run with it across the horizon, to be where light is going. In those ancient mornings, our ancestors could only imagine speed as a measure of longing, arrows in flight, the rush of wind, the brief spark of lightning. Each hinted at a promise that if we could just go faster, perhaps we could reach the source itself. Centuries passed. Wheels turned to engines, sails to wings, and the chase grew more deliberate. Every innovation became another step in the pursuit. The steam train, the jet, the spacecraft, all born of the same question: how close can we come to the thing that never waits? But as we built faster machines, something curious happened. The closer we approached light's rhythm, the more reality began to resist. Time stretched, distances distorted. The finish line moved with us, like a horizon that recedes as you walk. Imagine standing on the shore of time itself, throwing a pebble into the water and watching its ripples fold back toward you. That is what the chase for light reveals, a universe that doesn't merely allow motion, but weaves it into the very structure of being. When Einstein entered the story, he didn't simply describe speed. He described a boundary. He told us that the universe carries an invisible limit woven into its fabric, and that limit is not arbitrary. It is the rhythm that keeps space and time in tune. You drift through this idea slowly, like floating in a current. Light travels at nearly 300,000 kilometers each second. It seems incomprehensible, yet it is not a suggestion, it is a rule. The faster something moves, the more the universe demands of it. Its mass thickens with motion, its energy debts multiply. To catch light would require infinite energy, an impossible demand, as though the cosmos itself were whispering, "You can follow me, but you cannot arrive." Still, there is beauty in the trying. The chase is not failure, it is revelation. Because every attempt to catch light teaches us something about ourselves, our limits, our imagination, our place in the great unfolding. Each particle, each beam, each calculation written in chalk and wonder becomes a small confession. We long to touch what cannot be touched. You can sense that paradox, the mind that measures and the heart that marvels. Science explains how. Poetry asks why. Between them lies the quiet corridor where late-night science belongs. Here we don't rush to conclusions, we drift. We ask why speed, of all things, defines the architecture of existence. We notice how the faster we go, the slower time moves for us, as if the universe compensates, refusing to let any traveler outrun its rhythm. Picture a spacecraft pushing against that resistance. Its engines burn, its hull trembles, and each second on board stretches longer compared to the seconds on Earth. To those inside, a minute might pass gently, but for the world behind them, hours unfold. It is as though the act of chasing light bends the concept of time around the chaser, a quiet mercy preventing collapse. The closer you come, the more the universe leans in and says, softly but firmly, this far and no further. And yet there is no cruelty in that rule. The limit is what makes perception possible. Without the boundary of light speed, cause and effect would lose sequence. Reality would blur into a single instant. Every story, every heartbeat, every sunrise depends on the fact that nothing overtakes light. The speed limit is not a wall. It is the rhythm that lets the symphony of time play in order. You may close your eyes now and feel how this rhythm hums in everything. The flicker of a candle, the pulse in your wrist, the distant hum of traffic, each synchronized by light's timing. Even when you sleep, photons from stars you will never visit fall upon Earth, gently reminding you that illumination is always arriving, never resting. Why then do we still chase it? Perhaps because the pursuit itself is a mirror. When we imagine reaching light, we are really imagining the end of separation, the moment when distance, delay, and longing dissolve. To catch light would be to catch presence itself, the eternal now that light embodies. But to exist as humans is to live in the interval between spark and arrival, between question and answer. The chase gives meaning to the movement. You sense it now. The paradox is not meant to frustrate, but to awaken. Light is not fleeing us. It's guiding us, showing what perfection of motion looks like. It asks us to look differently, not to race toward it, but to understand what it reveals as it passes. Somewhere outside your window, a street lamp glows. Between its bulb and your eyes, countless photons make the journey in less than a heartbeat. They do not hurry, yet they never slow. They simply are, beams of certainty crossing oceans of probability. They are both our teachers and our limits. As you listen, you can almost feel the distance between you and them shrink, not in kilometers, but in comprehension. You can almost see the thought itself taking shape, that to chase light is to measure the edge of reality. Tonight, that realization doesn't demand an answer. It just asks for awareness. The chase we can never win is not about defeat. It is about understanding the beauty of a universe that allows pursuit but guards perfection. And so we rest here, on the threshold of motion, watching light continue its endless run. In the next breath, we will step closer to its mystery, to the laws that bend for it, to the strange way time and mass begin to change in its presence. But for now, let the question linger softly in the dark. If light always runs ahead, what is it that follows? Our bodies or our understanding? Before you drift further, take a slow breath and imagine everything around you in motion. The air moves across your skin, the planet turns beneath your feet, and even the stars, which seem still, are quietly migrating through the dark sea of space. In this restless ballet, nothing is truly at rest. Yet motion, as ordinary as it feels, hides one of the most profound mysteries of existence. That all movement, no matter how swift, obeys an invisible speed limit, a rule so fundamental that it defines reality itself. Speed is one of those words we use without thinking. You feel it when a train surges forward, when the wind presses against your face, when your heart quickens with excitement. But in physics, speed isn't about what we feel. It's about how one thing's change compares to another's. It is the measure of distance over time, but both distance and time bend when viewed from different perspectives. The universe does not hand out a single universal stopwatch. Every observer carries their own clock, their own ruler, their own rhythm. If you were floating in deep space, you might believe you were completely still. Yet to another observer gliding nearby, you are moving. There is no absolute motion, only relationships. We call these relationships reference frames, perspectives from which motion is measured. A person on a train, a planet in orbit, a photon crossing galaxies, all see the world differently, and all are right within their own frame. This idea seems simple until you follow it to its edge. When you measure the speed of light from any frame, moving, resting, spinning, accelerating, it always comes out the same, roughly 299,792 kilometers per second. The numbers never shift. Whether the source is rushing towards you or fleeing away, light's pace remains unwavering, as if the cosmos adjusts itself to preserve the rule. This constancy puzzled scientists for centuries. If speed depends on reference, why does light refuse to play by the same rules? The answer, as Einstein revealed, is that it doesn't just move through space and time, it shapes how both exist. Space and time are not separate arenas, but a woven fabric, and light is the thread that defines their pattern. You can imagine the universe as a vast ocean made not of water but of geometry. Curves, distances, intervals. When you move, you ripple that fabric. When you accelerate, you twist it. But light moves differently. It doesn't disturb the fabric. It glides along its very edge, tracing the boundary between what can be and what cannot. It is not just fast, it is fundamental. Einstein's insight was like turning on a quiet light in a dim room. He realized that to keep the speed of light constant, the universe must let time and space shift to compensate. If you move faster, your clock slows, your ruler shortens, and what looks like 1 second to you may stretch into minutes for someone else. It's not illusion, it's the deep flexibility of reality, bending itself to keep the cosmic rhythm intact. This speed, c, isn't merely a number. It's the law that binds all others. Nothing with mass can reach it, because doing so would require infinite energy, an impossible payment. Every gram of matter resists acceleration like a coin refusing to leave the table. The more energy you pour in, the heavier it becomes, as though the universe is quietly tightening its grip, whispering, "You may approach, but you will never arrive." Think of it like a horizon at sea. You can sail toward it forever, but it always stays the same distance away. Light is that horizon, always visible, never reachable. It defines the edge of causality itself, the limit of how fast information, influence, and meaning can travel. When you see a star in the night sky, you are not seeing it as it is, but as it was. Its light began the journey long ago, perhaps before Earth had written its first story. Light speed turns space into history, every photon a tiny time machine carrying news from the past. In this way, the speed limit of the universe becomes a kind of mercy. If events could outrun light, the order of cause and effect would collapse. You could see the ending before the beginning, the consequence before the cause. Time itself would unravel. The limit isn't a restriction, it's structure. It gives reality sequence and meaning, ensuring that existence flows forward like a calm river rather than exploding into chaos. You might picture space-time as a great cosmic loom, with light as the shuttle that passes between the threads. Every particle, every planet, every moment is woven by how light defines the fabric's tension. Without its constant pace, the weave would tear apart. It is both ruler and rhythm, the silent metronome of creation. As you rest in this thought, notice how the concept of speed transforms. It isn't just about motion anymore, it's about relationship, geometry, balance. When we accelerate, the universe doesn't resist us out of cruelty. It simply preserves its harmony. The faster we go, the more we borrow from time itself to pay the cost. We slow our clocks, we distort our shapes, we stretch the very space we inhabit. The cosmos adjusts us gently, making sure we never shatter the music of its design. This law holds everything from galaxies to glimmers. It governs the dance of electrons, the shine of stars, the pulse of signals from deep space probes. Even the colors of the sky owe their beauty to this boundary. The way blue light scatters more than red, the way sunsets lengthen their fire as the day's photons take the longest path through air. Everywhere light moves, it carries the same whisper. I am the measure of all that moves. and none shall pass me. And yet, in the silence of that statement lies wonder. For all our striving, light's limit has not stopped us from imagining beyond it. We build particle colliders that nudge ever closer to its edge. We launch telescopes that chase its ancient traces. And we dream of technologies that might bend spacetime itself. Warp drives, wormholes, bridges through geometry. Each idea, though speculative, is an expression of yearning, a way of saying that even if we cannot break the limit, we can understand its artistry. So when you think of light speed, don't imagine a wall. Imagine a heartbeat, a cosmic rhythm that underlies every interaction. It is the silent agreement between energy and existence, ensuring that everything arrives in the right order at the right time. Outside your window tonight, light still moves at that same unwavering pace. It leaves distant stars, touches the edge of your atmosphere, bounces from glass, from leaves, from eyes. Each photon completes its journey without delay, as it has for billions of years. To the photon, there is no journey at all. It begins and arrives in the same instant. Only we, anchored in time, sense the passage between them. As you sit with this realization, a quiet thought begins to form, that maybe what limits us also defines us. That without the silent speed limit of the universe, there would be no story to tell, no before or after, no memory, no dream. The boundary gives meaning to motion, just as pause gives meaning to sound. And so, as we drift toward the next chapter, let this question linger in the dark like a distant star. If light sets the rhythm of the universe, then what is it that keeps time for light itself? There are moments in human history when one mind changes the direction of thought itself, not through conquest or invention, but through insight so clear that the world must bend to see it. Einstein's theory of relativity was one of those moments. A quiet revolution, written not in fire or conflict, but in symbols and simplicity. A rearrangement of the universe on the back of a thought. Before Einstein, space and time were like stage and clock, background and rhythm, unchanging, silent, absolute. Newton's universe was solid, dependable, and eternal. You could measure motion against its frame as though the cosmos itself were a great, still canvas upon which everything else unfolded. But Einstein saw something deeper, that the stage itself could move, twist, and stretch. That space and time were not the scenery, but part of the play. He didn't discover this truth in a laboratory, but in his imagination. He pictured himself chasing a beam of light, a thought experiment that would ignite one of the most elegant ideas ever conceived. If he could keep pace with that light, he wondered, what would he see? Would the wave freeze before him, hanging still in space? Physics at the time said yes, but Einstein's intuition whispered no. The speed of light must remain constant. It could never stand still, not even for the one who chased it. And so in order for light to remain true, something else had to give way. Time, space, motion itself. From that realization came the special theory of relativity, a kind of cosmic symmetry that wove together time and space into a single continuum, space-time. In this fabric, no observer holds privilege. Every motion is relative, every perspective valid. The universe became democratic, but also far stranger. Here lies the heart of Einstein's beautiful barrier. As an object accelerates, as it pushes closer to the speed of light, the universe begins to defend its boundary. Time for that traveler starts to slow. The faster they move, the slower their clock ticks compared to one left behind. Distance itself begins to contract. Mass begins to grow, not because of weight in the ordinary sense, but because energy and mass are now revealed to be two faces of the same coin. This is not illusion. It is reality written in equations that have never failed an experiment. And it creates a perfect symmetry. The closer one approaches light, the more existence itself stretches to keep the limit intact. It is not a wall, but a curve that bends infinity away from reach. Picture a spacecraft hurtling through space, powered by impossible engines, nearing the edge of light speed. To those inside, everything seems normal. Their hearts beat, their voices echo, their clocks tick. But to an observer far away, their ship moves slower, their time drags, their energy swells like a star. The faster they go, the more the cosmos must distort around them, as if time itself were protesting, "You are not meant to see what lies beyond this speed." And yet, in that very resistance, there is beauty. Einstein's equations are not barriers of denial, but of harmony. They preserve the balance of cause and effect, the structure of meaning, the order of time. To break them would be to dissolve reality's coherence, to make effect precede cause, to let energy spiral into nonsense. In Einstein's hands, mathematics became something like poetry. Each symbol a metaphor, each line a truth so profound that it borders on the spiritual. The equation E=mc2 is perhaps the most famous example. It tells us that mass is nothing but concentrated energy, that every atom is a frozen spark of potential. Light, in contrast, is energy without rest, the pure expression of motion. But here's the paradox: light itself experiences no time. For a photon, the moment it is created and the moment it is absorbed are the same instant. No seconds pass between. From its perspective, the universe does not evolve, it is. Light does not travel through space-time, it defines it. And so to touch light's speed would be to step outside the flow of time entirely, to exist everywhere and nowhere in every moment at once. That perhaps is the true meaning of Einstein's barrier. It is not punishment for curiosity, but protection against paradox. To move at light speed is to erase the difference between beginning and end, to unwrite the narrative that gives existence meaning. In this sense, relativity is both law and poetry, a hymn to balance. It tells us that motion and stillness, time and mass, energy and form are all parts of the same music. Push one too far, and the others must adjust. Like the strings of a cosmic instrument, they tune themselves to maintain harmony. Einstein once wrote that the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. He meant that beneath the strangeness lies coherence, not chaos, but structure. The barrier at light speed is not a locked gate, but the edge of a design so elegant that breaking it would undo the song entirely. Think of how this boundary defines our world. Stars live and die because of it. Black holes form where gravity bends light itself back on itself. The glow of the night sky, the cosmic microwave background, is the whisper of energy that could never outrun light's constraint. Even time's arrow, the unfolding of past to future, is drawn along this same line. And yet, Einstein's revelation didn't end wonder, it deepened it. Because now, every attempt to understand reality means stepping closer to the border he revealed. A border where mathematics turns into mystery. Physicists still chase it, not to break it, but to understand the language it speaks. Quantum fields, gravitational waves, dark energy, all hum the same refrain. Nothing outruns the light, but everything dances with it. Perhaps that is the beauty Einstein left us, not a universe of walls, but of relationships. A cosmos that does not forbid, but composes. Every limit is also a shape. Every impossibility a form of protection. The barrier of light speed keeps the song of existence in tune. And maybe that's what makes it so haunting. We stand before it, yearning to touch what lies beyond, even as we realize that what we seek is already within us. In the atoms of our bodies, in the energy that binds us, in the photons that paint our world with color. Einstein's barrier is not merely the end of motion, it is the beginning of understanding. It is where curiosity meets humility, where the dream of breaking limits transforms into the art of honoring them. So as we leave this chapter, imagine again that beam of light Einstein once chased in his mind. It races endlessly through the dark, carrying the story of everything it touches. And though we may never catch it, we can still follow its path. Not to escape the rules of the universe, but to glimpse the beauty that those rules create, because sometimes the most profound truths are not found beyond the barriers, but written upon them. Imagine beginning a journey where every heartbeat, every second brings you closer to light. At first, it feels effortless. Acceleration smooth, energy flowing like wind against your back. But then, something strange begins to happen. The faster you go, the heavier you become. Not in the ordinary sense of weight pressing against the floor, but in a deeper way. As though motion itself were thickening around you, turning the air to glass, the space ahead into a rising tide. It's a quiet paradox. Speed gives us freedom, yet in the universe's design it also gives us gravity. Each pulse of acceleration doesn't just move you forward, it reshapes your relationship with time, with space, with energy itself. To chase light is to wrestle with the very fabric that allows motion to exist. Einstein's relativity tells us that as you approach the speed of light, your mass increases. But what does that really mean? Not that your atoms multiply or that you suddenly swell like a star, but that your energy, your resistance to further acceleration, grows. It's as if the universe keeps charging you a higher toll the closer you get to its edge. Each additional burst of speed costs more energy than the last, and soon that cost rises toward infinity. Think of a river flowing toward the sea. Near its source, the current is gentle, yielding easily to each rock and bend. But as it nears the ocean, its flow becomes heavy, deliberate, deep with the weight of distance traveled. The same is true of speed. At first, a little push takes you far. But as you near light's current, you feel the full drag of reality itself, the undertow of time and mass pulling back against you. If you tried to accelerate a spaceship, each increase in speed would demand more and more energy. At half the speed of light, you would need not twice, but perhaps 10 times the fuel.
At 99%, you'd need entire planets' worth. And still you would only inch closer.
The barrier doesn't announce itself with a crash or explosion. It reveals itself in silence, in effort that yields less and less progress, in energy that slips away like waves against a cliff. This is not failure, it's design. The same equations that bind galaxies together also protect them from tearing apart. The conservation of energy is not a rule we follow. It is the rhythm we exist within. It ensures that motion, time, and mass all remain balanced. But there's something poetic hidden in that resistance. Because the more energy you pour into motion, the more the universe transforms it into mass. A feedback of existence, as if saying, you may go faster, but only by becoming more of what you already are. Speed, then, is not about escape, but about deepening identity. The universe doesn't stop us from touching light. It asks us to become infinite in order to do so. To feel this truth, imagine pushing against a wave that never breaks. You press forward, water curling beneath your palms, but the harder you push, the stronger the current becomes. That is what near-light motion feels like. Not a wall, but an endless swell, a universe that folds your effort back into itself. Even light, in its purity, carries energy. But it has no rest mass. It exists at the very threshold, forever moving, forever weightless in its own frame. To reach that same freedom, a massive object would need infinite energy, energy that doesn't exist within our reality.
Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is self-consistent.
To reach light speed would be to leave the language of physics altogether, to step outside the system that defines speed itself. Energy and mass, Einstein showed, are two sides of one coin, E equals mc2. As energy increases, so too does effective mass.
That's why accelerating becomes so hard.
Every gain in speed feeds back into mass, bending the effort inward. You're not simply moving faster, you're thickening your existence, tugging at the geometry of space-time. If we could watch a ship nearing light speed from afar, we'd see its time slow, its color shift, its energy glow brighter. The photons bouncing off its hull would stretch and fade as they fought to keep up. From within, the travelers might feel steady, unaware of how heavy they've become to the rest of the cosmos. It's a strange duality, locally normal, universally monumental, and it isn't just theoretical. We've seen this truth play out in our particle accelerators. Tiny bits of matter, electrons, protons, whipped around rings at near-light velocities, demanding staggering amounts of energy for each fractional increase in speed. At 99.9999% of light speed, they consume megawatts just to climb the next decimal. Yet no matter how much energy we feed them, they never quite reach the barrier. They carry it with them. The weight of speed itself. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that motion has memory, that every force you apply leaves a signature not only in space but in the structure of being. The faster you go, the more the universe reminds you of your own limits and your connection to everything else that moves. In this way, mass is not a burden, but a tether. It anchors us in time, gives shape to our experience, is what allows us to feel motion at all. Without mass, without resistance, there would be no sense of effort, no meaning in the act of movement. Light may be free, but it never rests. We, bound by weight, know the beauty of pause, of acceleration felt as a journey, not an instant. Perhaps that's why we find light so mesmerizing. It embodies what we cannot be, motion without burden, existence without delay. But it also depends on what we are. Without mass, light has nothing to illuminate, no surfaces to reveal, no matter to reflect upon. Its perfection is shaped by our imperfection. And so when you think about speed, about rockets, about particles, about the dream of racing the sun, remember that the weight you carry is not a curse. It's the proof that you belong here, within time, within energy story. Every limitation we encounter is an invitation to see the harmony beneath. Light's unreachable freedom shows us that there is meaning in the chase itself. The more we strive, the more we glimpse the curve of truth. That motion and stillness are two sides of the same cosmic breath. We do not fail when we slow. We discover what it means to move at all. So let us rest here for a moment at the edge of possibility, feeling the pull of light ahead and the gravity of being behind. The universe hums between them, a quiet equilibrium. We cannot outpace it, but we can listen. Because sometimes understanding the limits of motion is the closest we come to understanding the motion of meaning itself.
Time is supposed to be steady.
It ticks, it flows, it carries us from morning to night, from youth to age, from beginning to end. We grow up believing that its rhythm is universal, that no matter where we are, a second is a second. But the universe, as it so often does, hides a deeper story behind what feels familiar. Because time, as it turns out, is not a river flowing the same speed for all who drift upon it. It is a tide, one that bends and stretches depending on how we move through it. When you travel fast, truly fast, time itself begins to rebel, not with noise or drama, but with a kind of gentle defiance.
Seconds lengthen. Moments lose their symmetry.
What was once synchronized between two observers begins to drift apart, like twin melodies slowly falling out of harmony. And yet both still sound perfectly in tune within their own rhythm. Einstein showed us that time is not absolute. It does not march to a single drummer. It is woven together with space, a flexible fabric that curves and flexes as energy and motion move within it. The faster we travel through space, the slower we move through time. Each motion borrows from the other, so that the total, the combined speed through space-time, always equals the speed of light. It's a law of balance, not restriction. Imagine spacetime as a great cosmic dance floor. Light glides across it perfectly, using all its motion for space, none for time. You and I, however, use some of that motion to move through moments, not just through distance. And so, as we accelerate through space, we must give up something in return: our pace through time itself. To visualize this, imagine two clocks, one resting on Earth, the other aboard a ship, speeding near the speed of light. To those on the ship, everything feels normal. Their hearts beat as they should, their coffee cools as usual, their conversations drift in comfortable rhythm. But when they finally return home, they find that far more time has passed on Earth than aboard their craft. Days there were hours here.
Years there were months here. This is time dilation, the universe's quiet rebellion against uniformity.
It's not an illusion, not a trick of measurement. It's real. The faster you move, the slower your time flows relative to someone at rest. And though the numbers are small at everyday speeds, as we near the speed of light, the effect becomes staggering. We've even seen it in the smallest of places, in laboratories. Moons, subatomic particles that should decay in microseconds, live longer when accelerated near light speed. Their internal clocks tick slower. Time itself bends to accommodate their motion. The universe does not fight them. It adjusts around them as if to say, move faster if you must, but your story will unfold more slowly. There is something profoundly human about that truth, because time, in its rebellion, teaches us that experience is not absolute either. We each live within our own rhythm, our own timeline, and yet all our moments are part of the same continuum. What we call now is not a shared universal instant. It's a local phenomenon, personal and relative. Imagine for a moment, you are the traveler, gliding close to the speed of light, watching the stars ahead stretch into blue, while those behind fade into red. You look at your hands, your reflection, the slow rise and fall of your breath. Inside your ship, everything feels steady, calm, eternal. But outside, eons may pass. Civilizations may rise and fall before you reach your destination.
You are not frozen.
You are simply out of sync with the rest of time's flow. It's one of the strangest realizations in all of physics, that speed is not just about where you go, but when you are. Each acceleration alters the tempo of your existence. You're not just moving through the cosmos. You're changing your relationship with duration itself, and in that there is a quiet poetry. Because every motion we take, or every heartbeat, every thought, is a small trade between time and energy.
Even standing still, we are spinning with the Earth, orbiting the Sun, circling the galaxy.
We are never truly at rest. The fabric of reality is constantly stretching and shifting beneath us, adjusting the rhythm of our existence in ways we barely perceive. When we say time slows down, it's tempting to imagine it as a loss, a kind of cosmic penalty for going fast. But perhaps it's the opposite. Perhaps it's a gift, a way for the universe to preserve experience. As energy rises, as motion strains the limits of what's possible, time stretches to protect causality, to ensure that events still make sense, that one thing still follows another, that stories can still unfold, because imagine if it didn't. If time did not slow, if it remained rigid and absolute, then light-speed travel would tear causality apart. You could leave after you arrived, witness effects before causes exist in paradox. The universe would collapse into contradiction. But instead, time bends, gently, gracefully, preserving coherence, allowing the story to remain whole. Time's rebellion, then, is not defiance at all. It is cooperation. It's the cosmos choosing flexibility over chaos. When we move too fast, time yields rather than shatters. It gives a little, enough to keep everything in balance. And maybe that's why Einstein called it beautiful. He saw not just the mathematics, but the elegance of compromise, how even time, the most sacred constant of our lives, knows how to bend so that the universe can remain unbroken. In your own life, you've felt echoes of this truth, not in physics but in emotion. How moments of joy seem fleeting while waiting stretches endlessly. How a single evening can feel eternal and a decade can vanish like a breath. Our brains, our perceptions, are shaped by the same laws that govern the stars. Time, for us, is not absolute either. It dilates with meaning, with attention, with experience, and so when you think of time slowing near light speed, think not of machinery or equations, but of perspective. Think of the traveller and the homebound friend, both certain of their own clock, both right in their own reality. Time is not something that happens to us. It's something we participate in, a dance we share with motion, with matter, with memory. Maybe that's why, in the end, we find beauty in the fleeting. Because to live at all is to move through time, not to control it, but to be shaped by it. Every second is an act of surrender, a small rebellion against the infinite. And as you sit here, listening, still and quiet beneath the stars, remember this: even when you are perfectly still, you are part of a vast, unfolding rhythm. Time moves not against you, but with you, stretching, bending,
weaving your story into the slow, graceful fabric of the universe. And somewhere,
light is still racing, untouched, timeless, reminding us that motion and time are never enemies, only partners in an ancient, beautiful dance. We often imagine space as a vast emptiness, a silent, infinite stage upon which light and matter perform their endless motion. We picture photons darting through a void, planets spinning in their orbits, galaxies drifting like luminous islands in a dark cosmic sea. But what if that picture is incomplete? What if space is not the backdrop at all, but the main character? Not the place where things move, but the thing that moves them. This is where our story begins to turn inward, where the chase after light reveals its most profound twist. Light doesn't simply travel through space, it travels with space. The stage itself flows, bends, and stretches. Motion, in the deepest sense, is not a journey across distance, but a curvature of the universe's own fabric. Einstein's general theory of relativity, the expansion of his earlier special relativity, brought this idea into the light. It told us that gravity is not a force pulling at a distance, but the bending of space-time itself, a geometry that tells matter how to move, while matter tells geometry how to curve. It is an idea so elegant that it redefines both motion and rest. Imagine a beam of light passing near a massive star. In Newton's world, the light would continue straight, untouched by gravity. After all, light has no mass. But in Einstein's universe, the light bends, not because the star tugs on it, but because the space around the star is curved. The beam isn't deflected in the ordinary sense. It's simply following the straightest possible path through a curved geometry. It's like an airplane flying across Earth. The pilot steers straight, yet from above the route looks curved because the world beneath is round. The same is true for light. Its straightness depends on the shape of the space it crosses. And since that shape is sculpted by mass and energy, motion becomes a kind of geometry, an unfolding of curves instead of lines. If you could see space itself, not as empty darkness but as a living fabric, you would watch it ripple and fold. Planets would sit like indentations in a vast cosmic blanket. Stars would carve deep wells in it, and black holes would tear it into horizons from which not even light can return. Every object's presence would reshape the flow of nearby time and distance, a choreography of curvature so subtle, so complete, that every motion we make is guided by it. And so, when we say that light travels, what we really mean is that it follows the geometry of space. But since that geometry is alive, evolving with mass, energy, and even expansion, we can no longer separate traveler from terrain. The motion of light and the motion of space are one and the same. This becomes most hauntingly clear when we look outward to the universe itself. Distant galaxies are not racing through space away from us. Rather, space itself is expanding, carrying them along like leaves caught in a stretching river. The light from those galaxies doesn't cross a static void. It rides a moving tide.
As it travels, the space beneath it stretches, and so its wavelength stretches too.
The light reddens, cooling with the expansion, whispering to us across billions of years, the universe is still growing. It's almost poetic. The farther we look, the more we see into the past, because light's journey is not just long, it's warped by the growth of the cosmos itself. Each photon is a traveler not across space, but within the flow of a living, evolving space-time. The geometry of motion then becomes a story of perspective. What we call movement may simply be the shifting of the grid beneath us. Just as a passenger on a train feels motion while the ground stays still, or feels still while the landscape slides by, our cosmic view depends on where we choose to stand. Are we moving through space, or is space moving through us? The answer, as relativity shows, is both, and neither. To grasp this, picture yourself standing on the shore watching waves roll toward you. The water seems to move, but the particles of water mostly stay in place, rising and falling as the wave's energy passes through. The shape moves, the substance vibrates. So too with the universe. What we perceive as movement may be the passing of curvature, the unfolding of geometry, the slow, elegant tide of space-time carrying energy through itself. This realization changes everything about our sense of stillness and motion. There is no true rest. Even in the emptiest void, space hums with quantum fluctuations, minute tremors that ripple like whispers between the stars. Even in the deepest calm, space-time itself expands, stretching galaxies farther apart. The cosmos never sleeps. It only shifts its rhythm. Einstein's insight turned gravity into music, a symphony of curvature. In that music, light is both instrument and melody. It moves not through resistance, but through resonance. When space bends, light bends with it. When the universe stretches, light stretches too. The two are inseparable, partners in a timeless dance. Perhaps that's why black holes are so haunting. They are not objects in space. They are places where space itself falls inward. Gravity there is so intense that the geometry collapses upon itself, curving space-time so steeply that every possible path points inward. To an outside observer, time seems to freeze at the edge, the event horizon. But from within, space still flows. The traveler never feels a wall, only the deepening of curvature, the gentle surrender to geometry itself. Even here, at the universe's most extreme edges, the rules remain smooth, continuous, elegant.
Space does not break.
It folds. Time does not end.
It slows. Everything, even the impossible, happens by degrees. The universe's signature of patience, and so.
When we gaze into the night sky and imagine light racing through the void, we are really witnessing the motion of reality itself, the bending, stretching, breathing of space-time. The cosmos is not a stage we stand upon. It is a fabric that carries us, shapes us, and sings through us. Every sunrise, every moonlit shadow, every star that twinkles above you is a thread in that moving tapestry. You are not outside of it. You are part of the geometry. Every breath you take happens inside space-time's slow, graceful ripple. Perhaps that is the quiet secret of light. It never travels alone. Space itself moves with it, turning distance into rhythm and time into texture. What we call a photon's journey is really the universe revealing its shape, one curve at a time. So tonight, as you imagine that ancient beam of light leaving a distant star, remember, it isn't crossing the void. The void is carrying it. The traveler and the road are one and the same. And maybe that's what motion truly is. Not movement through something, but movement as something. The gentle rebellion of geometry becoming experience, of space itself learning to travel.
If light has no mass, how can it exist?
How can something made of nothing illuminate everything? The question sounds almost like a riddle, something whispered between physics and philosophy. Yet this riddle holds the key to understanding the most mysterious traveler in the universe, the photon. A photon is not just light, it is light. Every ray that warms your skin, every color that touches your eyes, every flicker from a distant star, all are streams of photons, the smallest packets of pure energy.
They have no rest mass.
They do not occupy space as matter does, and yet they define everything we can see, measure, or imagine. When Einstein proposed that light behaves as both a wave and a particle, it shattered centuries of certainty. The world had been divided neatly, waves like sound and water, particles like dust and planets. But light refused to belong to either. It bent and interfered like a wave, yet struck detectors one point at a time, like a particle. It was as if reality itself couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Continuous or discrete, fluid or granular. This duality became one of the most haunting truths of quantum physics. That nature does not fit within our categories. Light, in particular, exists on the edge between being and not being, a traveler that moves without mass, a rhythm that becomes real only when we look. Imagine holding a photon in your hand. You couldn't. It has no size, no shape, no weight, but it carries energy, the ability to warm, to illuminate, to move electrons, to power life itself. It is a ripple in the electromagnetic field, a vibration of nothingness that becomes visible through motion. Like a note in a song, it exists only as long as it's being played. The energy of a photon is measured by its frequency, how fast it vibrates. Blue light vibrates more quickly, carrying more energy. Red light vibrates slowly, carrying less. But all share the same secret. They travel at exactly the same speed. No more, no less. The one constant of the cosmos, the speed of light. That constancy is what makes the photon so strange. Because it moves at the ultimate speed, time stands still for it. From the photon's own perspective, if such a thing can be imagined, its entire journey from emission to absorption happens in a single moment. The light leaving a distant galaxy billions of years ago and the instant it touches your eye tonight are the same moment in the photon's reality. To it, no time has passed at all. A photon never ages. It never slows down, never stops, never rests. In fact, it cannot. To stop would require it to have time. And photons exist outside of time's rhythm. They are timeless messengers, carrying the story of the universe across unimaginable distances, untouched by decay or delay. And yet, these ageless travelers are born constantly. In the heart of stars, in the glow of a candle, in the hum of your phone screen. Each photon springs into existence when energy changes form. An excited atom releases one when an electron falls to a lower energy level, like a tiny sigh of relief. That photon flies outward forever unless it meets something that chooses to absorb it. Light, then, is energy in transit, a conversation between creation and reception. But what makes it truly astonishing is that photons are massless, yet they still carry momentum.
They can push.
A beam of light reflecting off a mirror exerts a measurable force. Faint, but real. Solar sails use this effect to glide through space, propelled by sunlight alone. It's as if light, though made of nothing, can still leave fingerprints on the universe. Quantum mechanics deepens this mystery. The more we try to measure a photon's position, the less we know about its wavelength. The more we try to see it as a particle, the more it behaves like a wave. And if we don't measure it at all, it exists in a state of probability, neither here nor there, neither this nor that, until our observation collapses the possibilities into one. Reality at the level of light becomes participatory. The act of seeing is the act of creating what is seen. Perhaps this is why light feels sacred, not in a religious sense, but in a cosmic one. It is the purest form of existence without substance, presence without weight, reality without rest. It connects stars to planets, atoms to vision, the birth of the universe to the present moment. It is how the cosmos remembers itself. Every photon we observe is ancient. Some left their source before Earth existed, crossing expanding space for billions of years, their wavelengths stretched by cosmic expansion until they reach us as faint microwaves, the echo of the Big Bang. The universe's first light, still humming softly in every direction, bathing all of space in the afterglow of its own creation, and still it weighs nothing. The universe built galaxies, planets, oceans, and life, all out of things that light helped to reveal, but never contained within itself. Light is the messenger that never becomes the message. It is energy that never stays, a rhythm that defines time by existing outside it. So what does it mean for us, beings made of matter, to be shaped by something that has no mass? It means that we are surrounded and in some ways composed of relationships rather than things. Matter itself is frozen energy, slowed light. Einstein's most famous equation, E=mc2e, mc2, tells us that energy and mass are not different substances. They are two expressions of the same truth. Mass is energy-bound, light is energy-free. In a sense, everything you see is a story told by photons, but also a reflection of what you are made of. We are beings that live by light, see by light, think because of light. The neurons firing in your brain right now are powered by chemical energy born from sunlight long ago. The same light that grew plants, fed animals, and built you. You are, quite literally, a structure sculpted by the dance of something that has no weight. The photon, the particle made of nothing, is not just a quirk of quantum mechanics. It is a reminder that absence can still shape presence, that what we cannot hold can still hold us. Light does not need mass to move the universe. It only needs motion. And motion, in the end, is enough to make everything shine. There's a kind of silence in physics that doesn't come from the absence of sound. It comes from the moment an equation ends with infinity. Infinity is not a number, it's a wall disguised as a horizon. The universe's quiet way of saying no further. And yet, for as long as we've watched the stars, humanity has dreamed of crossing that line, of moving faster, burning brighter, touching the same speed that light does so effortlessly. We've built engines that roar, rockets that tremble against gravity, and theories that try to stretch the possible just a little further. But each time the math whispers back the same answer. To reach light speed, you would need infinite energy. Let that sink in. Not just more fuel, not a better engine, infinite energy. It sounds poetic, almost mythic, but it's rooted in the most stubborn precision science has ever known. Energy and motion are bound together. The faster something moves, the more energy it carries, the more it resists being pushed further. At everyday speeds, this resistance is small. A car doubles its speed, and the engine simply works harder. But as you approach the speed of light, that resistance doesn't just rise, it explodes. The closer you get, the more the universe pushes back, as if protecting a sacred boundary woven into the fabric of reality. Imagine running toward a horizon that keeps receding as you move. You never get closer. The landscape itself stretches away. That's what light speed is like. The equations of relativity show that as your velocity increases, your energy requirement grows. not linearly, but exponentially, curving upward until it shoots off the chart. At the limit, the curve doesn't end. It goes vertical, climbing toward infinity, and infinity in physics isn't a destination. It's a dead end. If we could somehow pour an infinite amount of energy into a single particle, every star's
output, every galaxy's burn, it still wouldn't be enough to reach light speed.
The laws of nature are not just limitations, they are forms of protection. Without them, reality would unravel into paradox. As you accelerate closer to light speed, time slows down for you. Distance contracts, mass increases. The equations twist space and time to keep that sacred limit intact. A spaceship nearing the speed of light would begin to feel heavier, not metaphorically, but physically. The energy you add becomes mass itself. Einstein's E-mc2e. Mc2e mc2 is not just a formula, it's a translation. Energy is mass, and mass is energy, linked by light's own speed. Every joule of energy you add adds weight, and the more weight, the harder it becomes to push further. At light speed, the ship's mass would be infinite. And infinite mass cannot move, so the dream of infinite energy folds into a paradox. 2.
Move infinitely fast, you must become infinitely heavy, and therefore unable to move at all.
It's as though the universe itself built a perfect circle around light. The faster you go, the more impossible it becomes to reach it. But let's drift a little deeper into that paradox, because inside impossibility, there's always beauty. Infinity in nature isn't rejection, it's transformation. When physics reaches infinity, it's telling us we've left the territory where matter can follow. Beyond that border, concepts like distance, time, and mass lose meaning. That's the realm where light lives. A realm without resistance, without rest, without time. In a way, the dream of infinite energy is a mirror. It reflects our longing to escape limits. Every scientific breakthrough, every leap of imagination begins with a refusal to accept boundaries. And yet light speed reminds us that not all walls are meant to be broken. Some exist to define the shape of everything else. Even so, the idea of infinity has its quiet poetry. Think of it as a horizon that keeps us moving forward, not to reach it, but to understand why it can't be reached. It's the reason explorers once sailed off the edge of the known world, why physicists keep building larger colliders, and why dreamers still look up at the stars and whisper, maybe someday. The phrase infinite energy might sound like science fiction, but it's also a philosophical mirror. What if it's not the energy that's infinite, but our curiosity? Every discovery creates more questions, each boundary a doorway to another mystery. Infinity, in that sense, is not the end of knowledge, but the heartbeat of it. Still, physics holds to its humility. When it says no further, it's not denying imagination. It's defining where imagination begins. The equations don't forbid us from dreaming. They simply remind us that some dreams belong to the realm of metaphor, not machinery. If you were to accelerate a human body to 99.999999% of light speed, time would slow almost to a stop relative to those left behind. To you, the traveler, the journey might last minutes. To the outside world, millennia would pass. The faster you go, the lonelier the universe becomes. Infinite energy wouldn't just break physics, it would break meaning. Because at light speed, time ceases, and without time, there is no experience, no change, no life. So maybe infinity is mercy, a boundary that preserves existence as we know it. The laws that limit us are the same ones that allow us to exist within limits. To burn infinitely would mean to vanish, and yet, when you watch sunlight filtering through a quiet room or trace the edge of a rainbow's arc, you are touching the echo of that impossible dream. Light moves with all the energy the universe allows, the perfect balance between motion and being, freedom and law. It doesn't need to reach further because it already exists at the edge of everything. Perhaps the dream of infinite energy is not about surpassing light, but about understanding it, learning that some boundaries are not prisons but shapes, not obstacles but invitations to see differently. When physics says no further, it doesn't close a door. It opens the sky, and as you drift tonight through thought and wonder, remember, infinity isn't the enemy of progress. It's the promise that there will always be more to seek. The universe doesn't end where light refuses to be caught. It only begins again in the space just beyond understanding, the place where energy, imagination, and awe become one. Every time you open your eyes, you are looking into the past. Every glimmer, every reflection, every quiet shimmer of dawn is not what is, but what was. We like to believe that sight gives us immediacy, that what we see is happening now. But light, for all its speed, is not instant. It travels, it takes time, and because of that, everything visible is already history. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as it was, fractions of a moment ago or billions of years past. To see is to chase shadows, not light. Look at the stars. The nearest one beyond the Sun, Proxima Centauri, lies over 4 light-years away. That means the light reaching your eyes tonight began its journey 4 years ago. If that star vanished right now, we wouldn't know until 4 years from this moment. What you see glittering above isn't the star as it is. It's the star as it was. The same is true of everything. The sun you see in the sky is 8 minutes old. The moonlight on a calm night is 1.5 seconds delayed. Even the reflection of your own face in a mirror is slightly in the past. The light leaving your skin, traveling to the mirror, and back again takes a fraction of a nanosecond. Minuscule, yes, but real. Reality at the speed of light always trails itself by just enough to make every moment a memory. The universe has no present, only an endless unfolding of light arriving late. This delay turns vision into archaeology. Every photograph is an excavation of the past, a record of light's journey through space, frozen in time. When you capture an image, you are holding on to a ghost of photons that have already moved on. The faces, the sunsets, the star, all preserved echoes of what once was. And beyond the reach of our eyes, the cosmos itself hums with light that has traveled for billions of years to find us. The faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, discovered accidentally in 1965, is the oldest light in existence, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself. Those photons have been stretching across the universe for 13.8 billion years, their wavelengths elongated by expansion until they whisper to us as invisible microwaves. When we measure them, we are not looking at the past. We are touching it, but there's something more haunting in that realization. If all we see is light's past, then we never truly see the present. We live surrounded by echoes, interpreting them as immediacy. Our lives are stitched together by delays too small to notice, yet universal in scale. Even thought itself depends on light-speed signals, neurons communicating through electrical impulses that move slower than light, but still bound by its cosmic limit. Our very sense of now is stretched and stitched by time. This isn't just science. It's a soft truth about perception. What we call reality is always one frame behind. The colors of a sunset, the gleam in someone's eyes, the stars above, all are delayed messages, postcards from moments already gone. We live in a universe that is always a little late, and yet endlessly beautiful in its lateness. It changes how we understand light. We think of it as a thing we witness. But light is more like a storyteller, carrying news of where it's been. It tells us about stars we will never visit, galaxies that may no longer exist, and moments that will never return. We do not chase light. We chase its stories, its memories, its shadows across time. Consider how light bends through a droplet of water, splitting into colors. Each color is a different wavelength, each ray a different journey. The rainbow you see isn't just refraction, it's a record of how light once moved, how it twisted through a billion droplets, how it met your eyes from one perfect angle. You are seeing an echo of an alignment that lasted only an instant and will never be repeated exactly the same way again. Reflections, too, are just rerouted memories. When sunlight hits a lake, it scatters across ripples, fragments, and returns as shimmer. The surface becomes a translator. Light's voice speaking in patterns and waves. What you see is not the lake itself, but light remembering the sky, the trees, the world around it. Even shadows are not darkness. They are the shapes light refuses to fill. A shadow is the absence of arrival, the pause in a conversation between matter and illumination. Where light cannot reach, a shadow speaks of what stands in its way. In that sense, we are always surrounded by light's storytelling, its presences and its silences both. Cosmic scientists have turned these silences into instruments. Telescopes like the James Webb peer deep into time, capturing photons that left their galaxies billions of years ago. When you look at one of those images glowing with nebulae and distant suns, you are not seeing what is. You are seeing what was, when the universe itself was young. Each pixel is an ancient letter carried through eons, finally delivered. And still, light never lies. It arrives late, but never false. Its honesty is in its delay. If you think about it, the universe's beauty is inseparable from its lateness. The night sky's brilliance depends on our inability to see things as they are. The colors of the sunset exist because sunlight bends through air that's already cooling from a day that's already gone. Even love, memory, and thought themselves are echoes, signals that cross the space between us, shaped by time's gentle friction. So when we say we chase light, what we really mean is we chase its echoes, the lingering fingerprints it leaves on everything it touches. We study its paths, its refractions, its afterglows, hoping to piece together the moment of truth that has already passed. And perhaps that's enough. Perhaps to see is not to catch light, but to witness its journey. To understand that beauty lives in the delay, in the gentle distance between what is seen and what is real. Because every photograph, every gleam, every star in the night sky is a whisper from a moment that can never return. And yet, somehow,
Through light, it does. So tonight, as you look up,
remember, you are not seeing stars, you are seeing their memories. You are not watching the present.
you are watching time made visible. We will never catch the light, but maybe we were never meant to.
Maybe the purpose was always to chase its shadows, to listen to its echoes, and to learn softly what it means to live in a universe that is both gone and still here. To move is to wait, to pass through seconds, to count distance, to live between where we were and where we are going. But light does not wait. It does not pass through time. It simply is. From our point of view, light rushes endlessly through space, but from light's own perspective, if such a perspective could exist, there is no journey, no delay, no in-between. The moment of departure and the moment of arrival are one and the same. That single truth unravels everything we know about existence, because to us, life is the measure of time, a sequence of befores and afters. To imagine being without time is to imagine being without becoming. No growth, no decay, no change. Yet this is the realm that light inhabits, the eternal instant stretched across the universe, a photon born in the heart of a star and absorbed in the eye of an observer, billions of years later, experiences neither birth nor travel. It does not endure its journey, but it is its journey. From our frame, the light has traversed unimaginable distances, crossed galaxies, bent through gravity's curves, and finally touched us after eons. But from the photon's frame, if it had one, there is only one timeless act of existence. The emission and the arrival fused into a single breathless moment. Light's reality is motionless motion, everywhere and nowhere at once. It's hard for the human mind to hold this idea. We exist in duration. Everything about us depends on sequence. We wake, we move, we age. Even our thoughts are arranged like beads along the thread of time. Light, however, knows no such thread. It exists on the edge of causality where time has no flow. For the photon, there is no before and after, only a perpetual now. And so, light moves without ever having to move.
It travels without ever having to travel.
It is the only thing in the universe that never experiences the act of traveling. Because in its own domain, there is no distance to cross. Einstein's theory of relativity quietly hides this poetry inside its equations. As an object accelerates toward light speed, time slows relative to an outside observer. Clocks aboard a near-light-speed ship tick slower. The traveler inside experiences less time than those left behind. The closer you get to light speed, the slower your clock runs. At the limit, the speed of light, the clock stops completely. Time freezes. Duration dissolves. For the photon, therefore, time does not pass.
It has no age, no history, no anticipation.
It is born into immediacy and remains there forever. From our world of ticking seconds, this seems impossible. How can something exist without time? But perhaps that's the secret symmetry of the universe, that some parts of reality are timeless, so the rest can have time at all. Light's unbroken solitude, then, is not loneliness in the human sense. It is purity, existence without sequence. It is what reality looks like when stripped of all waiting. But in that purity lies a haunting distance. Light cannot share its state with anything that has mass. To exist without time means to exist without change, and to exist without change means to exist without memory. Light knows everything, yet remembers nothing. Imagine what it would mean to see the cosmos the way light does.
No nights or days.
No ages or centuries. Just the still unfolding of everything, or simultaneously complete. The expansion of the universe, the birth and death of stars, the flicker of thought in a human brain. All would appear not as events, but as one continuous geometry, one infinite tapestry without edges. In that vision, there is no movement, only structure.
No journey, only shape.
The universe, seen through light's eyes, is not a story being told, but a sculpture already carved, an eternal, frozen act of creation that we, moving through time, perceive as unfolding. Perhaps this is what Einstein meant when he spoke of space-time as a four-dimensional fabric. Time does not flow, it simply is. We are like ants walking across a vast painting, experiencing one stroke at a time.
Light, by contrast, exists as the painting itself, whole, timeless, already complete. And yet, light's perfection isolates it.
To be timeless is to be untouched by the moments that make meaning possible. We understand joy, sorrow, wonder, all because they happen through time. Light, though infinite in reach, is empty of these dimensions. It does not wait to arrive, does not notice the distance it crosses, does not feel the warmth it gives. It is the most selfless thing in the cosmos, and pure giving without experience. This is its solitude, unbroken, unending, unknowing. You could call light the silent observer of everything, but that would not be true. Observation requires change, the registering of something new.
Light does not observe.
It simply reveals. It does not look at the universe. It is the universe looking at itself. Every photon that touches your skin has come from somewhere beyond your reach. Yet, in its own timeless existence, It has never been away. Its entire journey, from star to skin, from candle to eye, is one unbroken presence. To light, the cosmos is not large. There is no far away, no long ago. Everything exists in one indivisible now. This is what makes the study of light so strange, but it's not just an investigation into physics, but into perception itself. Light defines our sense of reality, yet experiences none of it. It carries every visible truth, yet remains untouched by truth's passing. It paints the universe, but never steps inside its own painting. So what would it mean for us to approach that state? To exist, even for a moment, outside of time? We might imagine perfect stillness, a peace beyond the reach of decay, but perhaps we'd also lose something essential, the heartbeat of becoming. For it is only by moving through time that we know what it means to be alive, to hope, to change. Light's perfection, then, is both its strength and its sorrow. It is eternal but cannot experience eternity. It is pure but cannot know purity. It connects everything but belongs nowhere. The poet Rilke once wrote, "Perhaps everything terrible is in its deepest being something helpless that wants help from us." Maybe light, in its infinite solitude, is not terrible but helpless, unable to feel the very world it illuminates. We, bound by time, give meaning to what light reveals. Without us to see, to wonder, to remember, the timeless beauty of light would remain unseen, a silent truth without witness. So in a way, our motion completes its stillness. Our waiting gives shape to its instant. The world of light and the world of time are not opposites, but partners, each defining what the other cannot be. Light teaches us that the universe does not rush.
Only we do. That stillness can be infinite.
That motion may be an illusion drawn by time's unfolding, and that somewhere, in the thin seam between presence and becoming, lies the secret harmony that holds it all together. As you listen, imagine yourself as both, the traveler bound by seconds and the photon that never waits. Between them lies everything that exists, the moving and the unmoving, the fleeting and the eternal, and in that balance, maybe we find what light cannot and the meaning of being aware within time, because though light never waits, we do, and it is in the waiting that we find wonder. In the end, every pursuit of light leads us back to ourselves. We began by chasing brightness across the heavens, believing that if we could only move fast enough, think deeply enough, build brilliantly enough, we might touch the edge of eternity. But now, after crossing equations and paradoxes, after seeing time bend and meaning dissolve, we find that what we were really chasing was a reflection, a mirror made of photons, showing us who we are when faced with the impossible. Every time we look at light, it looks back, silently, without eyes or emotion, yet full of knowing. It shows us the shape of curiosity itself. For all our questions about the universe's speed limit, we discover that the limit is not punishment or failure. It is the universe's most elegant way of teaching humility. To reach light speed would mean to become light, to lose the boundaries that define experience, to vanish into timelessness. In chasing light, we realize we never truly wanted to become it. What we long for is what the chase reveals: wonder, motion, and the tension between knowing and not knowing. The barrier isn't cruelty, it's a cosmic mirror, one that shows us that meaning lives not in arrival, but in pursuit. We build particle accelerators, launch telescopes beyond the planets, split photons, bend space-time with equations, all in the hope of seeing beyond the limit. Yet every breakthrough whispers the same truth. The limit isn't out there, it's within, is woven into the very fabric of perception. We are built to experience time. We are born to move through it, not escape it. Light reminds us of what we are not, and in doing so, shows us what we are. Think of it. Every photograph you've ever taken, every star you've ever seen, every sunrise you've watched unfold, none of them exist in the moment you perceive them. You are always seeing what was, not what is. The universe speaks to us only in echoes, and yet those echoes are enough to build entire civilizations of thought and feeling. That is the beauty of the mirror. It reflects the truth, but only if we dare to look gently. Perhaps the great paradox of science is that every answer deepens the question. Einstein didn't just find a limit, he revealed a language, one in which reality speaks through impossibility. The cosmic speed limit is not a wall. It's a boundary that defines the landscape of existence. The way a horizon defines the shape of the world, we may never cross that horizon, but we can see by its light. And what that light shows us is profound. That time, which feels like our cage, is also our canvas. That speed, which tempts us with freedom, would erase the very experience of being free. That the more we learn about the universe's silence, the more deeply we hear our own questions. The mirror is not glass. It is geometry. It reflects not our faces, but our limits. And in those limits, we find grace. Imagine for a moment that light could look back at us, not through eyes, but through presence.
What would it see?
Beings made of time and wonder, constantly reaching beyond themselves. We who measure the stars and write poetry about the void. We who stand at the edge of comprehension and still whisper, there must be more. Light would see in us what it can never have, the beauty of becoming. Because while light is, we become. We are the movement that defines meaning, the pulse through which the universe feels itself alive. And so perhaps the purpose of the cosmic mirror is not to stop us, but to awaken us, to remind us that what we seek is not speed, but understanding, not transcendence, but connection. We do not need to reach light to know it. Every moment of awareness, every flicker of thought is already lit by it. In that sense, the chase was never futile. It was always a lesson in perspective, that sometimes the unattainable exists not to frustrate, but to illuminate. The philosopher Simone Weil once wrote, "The sea is not less beautiful because we cannot drink it." The same is true of light. We cannot touch it, but we can let it touch us. Through vision, through insight, through the quiet awe that comes from knowing that even the unreachable has meaning. The cosmic mirror does not mock us. It reflects our striving, our curiosity, our refusal to stop asking why. And in that reflection, we see that the universe's silence is not empty. It's listening. So as we stand beneath the stars, surrounded by light that left its source before Earth even existed, we are looking into that mirror once more. We see what we've always seen, and a universe vast, untouchable, yet intimately intertwined with our own brief lives. The more we learn about light, the more it becomes a metaphor for consciousness itself, always illuminating, never graspable, forever on the boundary between being and knowing. Maybe that's why the chase never ends, because what we're really chasing is clarity, a glimpse of what it means to exist in the vastness. The cosmic mirror does not give us the answers. It shows us the questions reflected endlessly back, each one glowing softly with possibility. And so, in the stillness of this night, as you listen to the quiet hum of the universe, remember, we may never catch the speed of light, but we have caught something just as rare, the awareness of the chase itself. That awareness is what makes us human. That is what makes us luminous, because while light travels without time, we, who live within time, have learned how to wonder. And maybe, just maybe, that's the brightest thing of all. There's a quiet moment in every discovery, a pause between what we can do and what we can only imagine. It's in that pause that the word impossible begins to take shape, not as a wall, not as defiance, but as a whisper from the universe that says, this far and no further, for now. We tend to see impossibility as the enemy of progress, the line that mocks our ambition. Yet if we listen closely, there is grace in its silence. Perhaps impossibility is not a rejection, but a rhythm, a way for the cosmos to maintain its own harmony. Every law of nature, from gravity to the speed of light, is not a barrier built against us, but a balance written into being. And when we meet those limits, we are not being pushed back, or we are being invited to understand. Consider the strange beauty of a horizon. No matter how far you walk toward it, it stays the same distance away. But without it, there would be no sense of direction, no measure of progress, no poetry of pursuit. The horizon defines the journey. The impossible defines meaning. Still, we are curious creatures. We imagine breaking through that horizon, and not in rebellion, but in wonder. What if the impossible is only a mirage, waiting for the right kind of vision? So we dream up loopholes. Tachyons, for instance, particles that, in theory, could move faster than light. They were born in the equations of special relativity, tiny mathematical phantoms that disobeyed the cosmic speed limit. If they existed, they would move so fast that they could never slow down, never stop, never even touch the moment we call now. To them, the past and future would merge. Communication through them would mean speaking across time itself. But the universe remains quiet about tachyons. No hint, no trace, no ripple in the equations of reality that says, yes, they are here. It's as if nature allows them to exist in theory, but not in truth. A gentle reminder that mathematics can imagine further than existence can follow. Then there's the dream of the warp drive, a concept that first arrived not from physics but from fiction. Starships bending space-time, folding distance like fabric. Decades later, physicists gave that fantasy a fragile kind of legitimacy. The Alcubierre drive, a solution to Einstein's equations that allows space itself to move faster than light, even if the ship within it does not, but the mathematics ask for impossible things. Negative energy, exotic matter, the bending of space in ways no known force can achieve. Even in theory, it's a cosmic daydream. The universe listens, smiles, and stays silent. And then, of course, there are wormholes. The gateways between points in space-time, tunnels that could, in principle, connect one region of the cosmos to another, or one moment to another, without crossing the distance in between. They are beautiful in their symmetry, elegant in their logic, and heartbreakingly unstable. Any attempt to enter one collapses it instantly, as if the universe retracts the idea the moment it's touched. But perhaps that's the point. The impossible doesn't vanish to frustrate us. It vanishes to protect balance. If faster-than-light travel were possible, cause and effect could collapse. You could arrive before you left. The structure of time itself, the delicate web that allows existence to unfold in sequence, would dissolve. Without impossibility, there would be chaos. Without the cosmic no, reality would have no rhythm. We often think of science as the art of defying limits. But in truth, science is the art of listening to them. The universe does not reveal its secrets to conquest. It reveals them to curiosity that moves softly, humbly, in rhythm with its rules. The impossible is not a locked door. It is a door that opens inward, toward understanding. And when we step back to see the larger pattern, we notice something extraordinary. Every impossibility we've ever faced has become, in time, a new horizon. Flight, communication across oceans, walking on the moon, all were once declared impossible. But each of these defied practical impossibility, not fundamental impossibility. The universe never forbade them.
It merely waited for us to learn its language. There's a difference between what is not yet possible and what is never meant to be. Maybe that's why the phrase "nothing can reach the speed of light"
carries both tragedy and beauty. It's tragic because it reminds us of what we cannot do. It's beautiful because it reminds us that light itself exists as the perfect balance, fast enough to define motion, yet unreachable enough to preserve meaning. What if impossible is simply the universe protecting its own coherence, ensuring that cause follows effect, that beginnings lead to endings, that time flows forward in a song that makes sense? What if impossibility is the thread that keeps the tapestry from unraveling? When we look at it this way, the impossible becomes almost holy. It holds the world together. It shapes the playground of existence. It allows everything else to be possible, and so when we face it, whether in equations, in science, or in life, maybe the task isn't to force it open, but to sit with it, to ask not how to break it, but what it means. Because sometimes what appears impossible from one perspective is simply unseen from another. The Earth seemed flat until we saw its curve. The stars seemed eternal until we learned they too live and die. Even time itself may not be what we think it is. It might just be light's way of teaching us patience. The universe is not cruel for having limits. It's wise. It gives us edges to hold on to so that meaning doesn't fall away. And perhaps one day, if we learn enough, we'll find that the impossible isn't an end. It's a transformation waiting in disguise. That what seems unreachable is just the universe's way of saying there is more, but not yet. For now, impossibility is our mirror, our teacher, our gentle reminder that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only understood. As you drift through this thought, imagine the quiet of space, the light of a distant star that will never reach you, and yet still guides your gaze. It doesn't need to be touched to have meaning. It only needs to be seen. Maybe the impossible is like that. Something we don't need to conquer, only to witness in awe. And in that witnessing, we find that the boundary was never the illusion. The illusion was that we ever needed to cross it. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the feeling of stillness, not the kind that lacks motion, but the kind that feels eternal, untouched by change. That's where this chapter begins. In the quiet, underneath the chase. After all the equations, the energy, the endless race toward light, there is a silence so deep it feels like the heartbeat of the universe itself. For centuries, we've tried to measure movement, speed, velocity, acceleration, as if the faster we go, the more we understand. Yet, every pursuit, every revolution of thought seems to circle back to the same gentle truth, that motion and stillness are not opposites. They are partners in a single cosmic dance. When we chase light, what we're really confronting is stillness. Because at the speed of light, motion stops meaning what we think it means. From light's perspective, it goes nowhere. No distance is crossed.
No time is spent.
The journey in its own frame doesn't exist. The mission and arrival are one and the same. To light, there is only now. And so the universe's fastest traveler and the thing that defines all motion may also be its most profoundly still. It's a paradox we can feel but never quite solve. We, the ones bound by time, experience existence as movement, from past to future, from cause to effect, from question to understanding. Light, on the other hand, exists in eternal immediacy, the stillness beneath speed. Maybe that's what it's trying to teach us. That true awareness isn't about racing ahead, but resting inside the moment that already contains everything. Think of a calm ocean at dawn. The surface looks motionless, but beneath it, invisible currents swirl and rise. Light itself behaves like that, endlessly moving, yet eternally still in its essence. It travels, but without experiencing travel. It illuminates, but never sees. It connects galaxies, yet never perceives distance. We measure it as speed, 219,792 kilometers per second. But that number is not light's reality. It's ours. It's the reflection of how we, as time-bound beings, witness its passage. To light, there is no passage at all, just presence. And maybe that is the lesson buried in the physics. That speed, when taken to its limit, transforms back into stillness, just as sound, when high enough in pitch, disappears into silence. For us, motion is identity. We define ourselves by progress, by what we chase, ideas, achievements, understanding. But when we move too fast, time begins to dissolve, and so does meaning. Light reminds us that beyond all acceleration lies a kind of surrender, not to failure, but to presence. Every physicist who's ever contemplated relativity eventually arrives at a strange quiet. They begin with motion, but end with awareness. The realization that the ultimate speed is not an act of rushing, but of being completely at rest within the flow of existence. In that sense, light is not the runner. It is the mirror in which all running is reflected. If we could somehow drift beside a photon, if time slowed enough for us to see the world as it does, we wouldn't see movement. We'd see a frozen eternity, a universe where beginnings and endings coexist in the same breath. Everything would happen at once, and nothing would need to happen at all. Perhaps enlightenment, in every sense of the word, means reaching that state, not by moving faster, but by letting go of the need to move, by realizing that awareness, like light, is its own arrival. There is a strange peace in knowing that even at unimaginable speeds, stillness remains. That at the heart of every force, every orbit, every spinning star, there is balance, an invisible center that does not move yet sustains all motion. Planets whirl, galaxies spiral, particles vibrate, and still, beneath it all, the quiet remains. Maybe the universe isn't a race through space, but a meditation unfolding through time. And maybe, just maybe, light isn't trying to outrun darkness. It's simply showing us what perfect presence looks like. You can almost feel it when you look at a beam of sunlight cutting through dust. It appears to move, to shimmer, to dance. But in truth, it's already everywhere it will ever be. That shimmer is not its motion, but your perception of its arrival. The beauty you see is the conversation between stillness and time, and perhaps that is why light feels sacred, because it reveals something we cannot grasp in ourselves. It shows us that even within speed there is serenity.
Even within the chase there is peace. The faster we go, the more we discover the stillness that never leaves.
The more we learn about motion, the more we find ourselves returning to silence. Every acceleration, every orbit, every flash of energy, all of it draws a circle back to the same point, the calm center. It's easy to believe that stillness is the absence of motion, but maybe it's the opposite. Maybe stillness is motion's purest form. Motion so perfect, so complete, that it no longer needs to change. If light could speak, it might tell us, there is no need to chase me. I am already here. The illusion of distance is what makes the chase meaningful, but the truth of stillness is what makes it beautiful. We move not to reach light, but to learn what it already knows, that presence is the fastest thing in the universe. As you listen, feel that paradox settle gently inside you, the sense that all motion, all thought, all becoming are just ripples on the surface of something immeasurably still. The same stillness that holds galaxies in their orbits and hearts in their rhythm. Light doesn't run. It simply is. And so perhaps are we. Because beneath every chase, beneath every ambition and every breath, there is a stillness that does not move. A stillness that waits patiently beneath the noise of time, whispering the same truth that light whispers across the cosmos. You were never meant to arrive. You were meant to be here. There's a moment in every deep night, a kind of suspension between thought and sleep, when your awareness softens and the line between the outer world and the inner one begins to blur.
That's where this chapter lives.
in that threshold between the physics of light and the poetry of self, between what light is and what it means. For so long, light has been the language of knowledge. To see is to know, to bring something to light is to understand it. Yet the closer we look, the stranger the metaphor becomes. Because if light defines the rhythm of time, and time shapes the rhythm of consciousness, then perhaps the very act of awareness, at this moment of you listening, breathing, existing, is also a kind of illumination. We often think of light as something external, a thing that strikes our eyes and reveals the world. But perhaps it is also inward, a bridge between perception and the reality it perceives. When photons strike your retina, they don't carry color, shape, or depth. They carry energy, pure, silent packets of electromagnetic vibration. It is your mind that paints the universe with light. In that sense, seeing is not receiving, it's creating.
Every ray of sunlight, every starlight glimmer, every reflection on water, all of it becomes real only through the canvas of your awareness.
Light gives time its measure, but you give light its meaning. When Einstein revealed that time slows near light speed, he wasn't just rewriting physics.
He was redefining perspective.
He was showing us that reality is relational. That time, like perception, depends on where and how you stand. To one observer, moments rush by. To another, they stretch into eternity. There is no universal now. Each consciousness lives in its own stream of light, its own private rhythm of time, and perhaps that's where selfhood begins, in the awareness of duration. To be conscious is to experience time passing. Without that flow, identity dissolves. Memory requires sequence. Emotion requires change. The very story of I is built upon the current that light makes visible. You might think of consciousness as a mirror placed in the path of photons. Every reflection is an interpretation. Every glimmer is a thought. Yet no mirror ever holds the light it reflects. It only reveals its passing. In the same way, we never hold awareness. We simply witness it unfold, moment by moment, the way space witnesses light. The philosopher's question, what is the self, begins to sound a lot like a question of physics, because if all things move through time at the speed of light in one form or another, then perhaps consciousness is what it feels like to be slowed down enough to watch that motion unfold. We are the universe experiencing its own delay, the light of being refracted through matter, learning to see itself. In this way, you are not separate from the light you see. You are a participant in its journey. The photons that illuminate this world are older than memory. Some born in stars long gone, others in the first breath of the universe itself. They have touched nothing,
Age not at all, and yet here they are, arriving at your eyes.
transforming into awareness. It's almost poetic to imagine that the act of seeing is the final step in their journey, as if light was always meant to find an observer, a consciousness through which it could complete its circle. Without perception, light remains potential. It exists but unexperienced. It's awareness that turns it into meaning, so maybe consciousness is not something separate from the physical world, but its natural flowering. The moment when light, after billions of years traveling through space, finally looks back at itself and says, "I am," and that changes everything. Because if awareness and light are reflections of one another, then exploring physics becomes an act of introspection. To study light is to study the boundaries of perception. To measure time is to examine the heartbeat of consciousness itself. Think about how you remember. Every memory is made of light, photons captured by your eyes, translated into neural signals, stored as patterns of energy. When you recall them, you don't retrieve light, you recreate it. The mind becomes its own small cosmos filled with echoes of illumination, and in that recreation, time becomes fluid. The past glows within the present.
Light once received becomes light imagined.
You travel backward not in body but in awareness. The same process that bends spacetime near a black hole happens quietly in your thoughts. The folding of time within, consciousness. Perhaps that's why mystics and physicists often end up speaking similar languages. Both are trying to grasp the ungraspable, to describe how something as weightless as awareness can hold the weight of the universe. Both suspect that light and consciousness might be different expressions of the same underlying symmetry, energy that knows itself. It's not hard to see the poetry hidden in the equations. When Einstein wrote E = mc2, he gave form to one of the most profound relationships in existence. The idea that matter and energy are not separate, but two faces of the same thing. Extend that a little further, and you might say that consciousness and the universe are not two things either, but one reflection seen from within. Light becomes the thread between them, a cosmic language that translates energy into experience, and experience back into energy. The very photons bouncing around your room at this moment are ancient messengers from the beginning of time, carrying with them not just information, but possibility. The chance for awareness to arise. And so we might ask, if light gives birth to time, and time gives birth to consciousness, what gives birth to light? Perhaps the answer is hidden in the silence that came before the first spark, when the universe was pure potential, a kind of pre-awareness waiting to be seen. When that first light appeared, time began, and with it, the long journey towards self-reflection. It would take billions of years for atoms to become eyes, for energy to become memory, for awareness to ask its first question. But from that moment on, the universe was no longer in darkness. It was awake. Now, when you look up at the night sky, you're not just witnessing stars. You're witnessing your own ancestry, the light that made your body, your thoughts, your sense of self. You are, in every literal sense, made of starlight that learned to wonder. And then maybe that's what consciousness really is, the universe's way of remembering itself. Not as equations or distances, but as the quiet recognition of being. The same awareness that feels time passing is made of the same light that makes time possible. You are the continuity between them, the point where physics becomes experience. If light could speak, it might tell you this: you and I are not separate. I am your beginning and your witness.
I move through you as you move through me.
The story you tell as time is my reflection becoming thought. So when you sit in stillness tonight, watching the last traces of daylight fade, remember that you are not watching something end. You are participating in the ongoing dialogue between light and awareness, between the universe and the self. Time flows because light flows. Awareness watches because light watches through it. And somewhere between the two, meaning is born. Soft, luminous, eternal. And maybe that's all consciousness ever needed to be. Not a mystery to solve, but a light to remember. After all this journey, perhaps the answer is gentler than we expected. It's not just because of math or physics or because Einstein said so. It's because the universe is built on rhythm and light is that rhythm. It's not a wall we crash into. It's the tempo that keeps creation from ending all at once. Think of light not as a finish line, but as a horizon, always ahead, always moving with us. The closer we reach, the farther it stretches. It's a chase that defines time itself, keeping everything in motion, keeping every moment fresh and unfolding. If anything could reach light, the chase would stop.
Time would stop.
Reality would lose its heartbeat. The cosmos would go silent, perfectly still, perfectly complete, and therefore perfectly gone. Light's limit isn't punishment, it's protection. It's how the universe ensures there's always a next moment, a new dawn, a continuing story as we moved through these chapters. through speed and stillness, time and perception, physics and poetry, we began to see that light's solitude is not loneliness. It's a kind of service. Light travels endlessly so that everything else can exist within its wake. Every color, every shadow, every thought you've ever had, all are born in the distance between you and light. The faster we try to go, the heavier we become, as if the universe gently pulls us back, whispering, "Slow down, be here." Because perhaps what makes life beautiful is not the reaching, but the being, not the light itself, but the glow it leaves as it passes through us. If you could travel alongside light, you'd see no movement, no passing time, just a frozen eternity. And yet, here we are, experiencing the miracle of moments unfolding. That unfolding is life. That delay between cause and effect, between desire and fulfillment, between question and answer, that's where meaning grows. In a way, the speed of light is the universe's most compassionate boundary. It says, you may never arrive, but you will always journey. And that journey is what gives rise to wonder, curiosity, and consciousness itself. We often dream of surpassing limits, of breaking barriers, of conquering what lies beyond. But then maybe this is one barrier that doesn't need breaking. Maybe it's the boundary that lets us exist at all.
Because if we could move faster than light, time would unravel, stories would vanish.
And everything would collapse into a single instant, perfect, silent, and empty. Instead, we live in motion, and between the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen. The horizon recedes but never disappears. It invites us forward, not to end the journey, but to keep discovering what it means to move, to wonder, to be, and maybe that's what Einstein truly gave us. Not just equations and predictions, but a kind of humility, a reminder that every speed, every orbit, every pulse of energy exists in harmony with something greater, that we are not racing against the universe, but moving with it, carried along by the same light that defines it. So when we look up and see the faint shimmer of a distant star,
we're not just looking into space, we're looking into time.
Into light that left its home long before ours existed, traveling patiently so that one quiet evening it could touch your eyes and become a moment of awe. And that's the quiet truth we end with. Light never really leaves us. It moves through us, reflects in us, becomes us. Every heartbeat, every thought, every dream is a small echo of that same rhythm, the cosmic beat of unfolding creation. To chase light, then, is to chase meaning itself, not to capture it, but to move with it, to live in that infinite approach where understanding is always just ahead, calling us onward. Because if we ever arrived, the story would end. And perhaps the greatest kindness the universe gives us is that we never do. So to the listener who asked, why can nothing reach the speed of light? Maybe the truest answer is this: because the universe doesn't want us to. It wants us to try. It wants us to wonder, to keep reaching, learning, imagining, because that endless curiosity is what keeps everything, from stars to minds, alive. And as we close this journey, remember that the horizon isn't fixed. It moves with us, always just out of reach, always leading us forward. Light doesn't run away. It guides. Thank you for walking and wondering through this with me. If this exploration lit even a small spark of curiosity in you, stay close. There are countless more questions waiting beyond the next horizon. Good night.